Pickleball Diaries presents Cling on the Court with your host, Lily Brown. Let's go!
Hi everyone, welcome back to Cling on the Court. Let's cracking more code today, and we will talk about a very interesting topic of the different roles that the left side player and right side player should take in gender doubles game and versus the mixed doubles game. And first, let's welcome our coach Jeff. Welcome coming back, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing great, Lily. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, always a pleasure to talk to you. And then yeah, let's cannot wait to dig into all these like well of knowledge. And then at the same time, lovely audience, and then please follow us on YouTube and all the um, podcast platform. And you can always drive and listen to all these interesting, great pickleball insights. Yeah, so okay, Jeff, let's talk about left side and right side in terms of the gender double and mixed double. I feel like there's a lot of topic talk about what the left side players this role should be, how they should play, the right side player, but I haven't seen too much in-depth analyze regarding like give the difference of in terms of the female player and the male player, what they should be supposed to do, right? In the gender double and the mixed double. Do you want to shed some lights on that?
Yeah. So I thought we could just talk about some of the key considerations and differences and challenges, but also solutions for transitioning from mixed to gender doubles with a focus more on the female role and how that can be challenging going from playing the right side in mixed and then going back to playing gender doubles as the female. It's really tough because you go from often sort of sharing the court almost 50-50 or maybe 40-60 with your left side partner in gender doubles. But then when you go to play mixed, if you are playing with a strong male left side partner, often you're giving up, sort of 30 to 40%, giving up a lot more court and maybe only taking 30 to 40% maximum of the court. So it can be really challenging to go back and forth, within a tournament, but also if you're just playing with lots of different partners at different times in your rec games, it can be really confusing for the right side female player because sometimes they'll be playing with male partners who like to take a lot of space and then some who don't. And then when you transition from that back to gender doubles, it can just be really tough to know how much space to take when you're at the kitchen, but also when you're at the baseline as the serving team, receiving the return of serve and knowing which third shots you should take or not take. So there's a lot to go over, and I thought we could just talk about some of those different situations and try and help people out with how they can better position themselves or understand their roles better.
Yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, let's start with some questions from me, and
Mhm.
then maybe that will inspire more overall view from you. So there's some very specific question. For example, we're talking about especially the female player on the right, and so when the third, like when returning the third. And especially if it's a cross court, like in the mix, often the guy will come like all the way here and take with his forehand, but then it's in the gender will be different. Should the female player on the right taking the third from her backhand?
And that's a good question because the third shot is so important, right? So
Yeah.
you receive the return and how well you hit your third shot as a team, and then how well you position yourself after sending your third shot has a huge impact on how the point unfolds and whether you're able to neutralize, apply pressure, or whether you get pressured after maybe a high third. So at minimum, we want to be able to neutralize when we're the serving team hitting a third shot. And if you don't have your roles sorted out and your positioning sorted out in mixed doubles, it can be really hard to start the point off right as the serving team. So what you should do really, what I would suggest is actually get on the court with your partner. So if you're the right side female player playing with a left side male player in mixed, is sort of identify when the serve is taking place from the right, so the return is being made from the right side of the court, identify the approximate territory that the left side player is going to take when they want to take the third shot. So they should actually sort of go and visualize with their paddle and sort of point on the court and say even when the ball's coming cross court, the left side player should say, I'm comfortable coming this far over. And, that might be sort of 70% of the way over to the right side. And then the right side player needs to sort of agree or disagree with that and let them know if they're comfortable with that or not. And they need to get some agreement on that so that they can sort of anticipate when that return's coming down the middle and across slightly to the right side player's backhand or to the right side player. They need to have a bit of an understanding in advance of who's going to take that ball. And then they also need to establish great communication and early communication, which is one of the things I think mixed doubles teams, but also gender doubles teams just don't do well enough on the third shot. You need to communicate and communicate early. So first of all, I would suggest establishing sort of the geometry or the space that the left side player is going to take on the third or not take. And then they need to establish communication. And, in an ideal world, the left side player, if in mixed, if they're the one who is supposed to be taking the majority of the thirds that are around the middle of the court, it should really be them who's communicating really early. They should be calling mine and going to take that ball so that the right side player knows to give space. Or if they don't want to take it, they should say as early as possible, yours, so that the right side player knows that they need to be ready to play the third shot. So yeah, establish the space visually before the match starts, and then also establish great communication with a little bit more priority or onus placed on the left side player's communication.
Yeah, like it just speaking from my own experience, came out of a team event. And so, yeah, so I find like in one mixed game, my male partner on the left want to take everything on his forehand, and then going to the gender double and the ball coming to even just at the middle, and my female partner on the left look at me thinking I should take with my backhand. I'm actually backed away thinking she will take it with her forehand. And I think you're very dead on. Like everybody's strengths and weakness is different. And to establish a clear kind of like, I don't know, should we say boundary or like
Boundaries
the,
and strategy, and like I
yeah.
mean, the ultimate goal with the third shot, in an ideal world, you're applying pressure with your third shot. So you're attempting a serve that creates a weak return, so that you can maybe apply pressure with an aggressive drive. But you can also pressure with a low third shot drop as well. But one of the keys to being able to apply pressure is having good positioning after you hit the third shot. So if you don't have good established sort of geometric boundaries and territories, and you don't have good communication, what often happens is, let's say that the left side player actually hits a good third shot, and maybe let's say that it's a third shot drive. So the left side player hits a good third shot drive, but if the communication was really late, what happens is the right side player might not have been able to back away from the ball, or they may not have started to move forward early enough because maybe they thought that they needed to be in position to actually hit the third shot. So the earlier that the players communicate, or the earlier the left side player determines that they're going to take the third shot, the right side player can start to get off of the ball and start to move forward to get in position towards the non-volley zone, so that if the left side player executes an effective third shot, and let's say it's a third shot drop, it gives them lots of time to get to the non-volley zone because of that early communication. So that right side player, knowing that they're not taking the third, can start to move forward earlier. And same goes if the left side player is driving. if the left side player calls it out really early that they're going to take the third shot and drive it, that right side player can back away and start to move forward to pressure the returning team. So after the drive, they can close in towards the non-volley zone a little bit tighter to apply pressure with a volley on their fifth shot. So what people often refer to as a shake and bake. But if you have late communication, the player who's playing off the ball and not taking the third shot may not be able to get into the optimal court position to apply pressure. So that's just one example of why communication and establishing the territories is so important. It's not just for executing the third shot on its own, it's for positioning after the shot. And that's again that applies to mixed doubles we're talking about right now, but also if you go into gender doubles, establishing those territories and early communication is super important so that the player off the ball can have great positioning after the third.
So, so we're talking about the female player playing on the right side right now.
Mhm.
So compared to the gender double and mixed double, should should they be more conservative, playing more conservative in the mixed double than the gender double, the women's double,
Should the
because
right
current like nowadays a lot of offense are created from the right side, and especially you see like there's more driving, there's more speed up in the women's double. Um, but in the mix, do you think the women on the right side should take a bit more traditional role and be more consistent, just more just setting up the ball for the left side male partner? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question. It sort of depends. Like it depends on now we get into the individual strengths and weaknesses, right? So, um, if we're taking a situation, let's say where the left side male player is really strong, so has the ability to sort of impose their game by hitting really aggressive drives, has great speed ups off the bounce or out of the air, and a really dominant forehand in the middle, then in that case, the right side player could sort of take on the role of like setting the point up and just being ultra steady and trying to create opportunities more using like precision and patience and trying to break the other team down with like great dinking, precise third shot drops that set up the left side player. Um, but it also depends because if that right side player has a lot of offensive capability, that right side player may also want to try and create opportunities by applying pressure with more potentially third shot drives if they have a good third shot drive. And they may have the ability to take balls out of the air at the kitchen or speed up really well off the bounce from the right side. And if they have those skills, they can actually use those skills to apply pressure to the team on the other side at the kitchen, which may actually set up their left side male partner to sort of clean up any junk that they create around the middle. So, for instance, let's say you're a right side player, female player with a great two-handed backhand speed up from around the middle of the court. You might actually want to use that not to win the point, but to create some surprise speed ups where you get sort of a soft high pop up in return, and then you or your male partner on the left might be able to sort of clean it up. So you kind of need to discuss that in advance with your partner about like what are your strengths and weaknesses and what role do you want to play based on your own strengths and weaknesses as an individual, but also as a team, right? Because sometimes what happens is you might have like a really strong team in mixed where the right side female player is really great at playing an aggressive game style, and so is the left side male partner. So maybe that left side male partner can drive the third shot a lot to try and take away time from the returning team by pressuring them with fast drives. And then the right side female player has great volleys out of the air or great counters, and maybe they can do more shake and bake and apply pressure that way. So you sort of have to determine as a team what kind of strategy and tactics you want to use based on your individual strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, so I think that's a very good point, right? Like, so would you say in the mixed double, the style will be more built upon the male?
Um, I mean, yeah, yes and no, because it depends also what level we're talking about. Because at maybe at really a high level, like say the open or pro level, generally both players are going to be quite competent at all phases of play. So defending, neutralizing, and attacking. But in particular, the left side male player, usually at the open level or pro level, has like a pretty dominant forehand. So they might want to take up a little bit more space. And maybe the right side player is going to play a little bit more conservative and focus on just like neutralizing. But again, it sort of depends. These are things you have to discuss with your partner because there's sort of rules of thumb, but then, every individual player is different and personalities are different. So you have to communicate these things and talk about them in advance and sort of consider your own strengths and weaknesses, and then also identify the other team's strengths and weaknesses. So you may want to play a little bit more aggressive in general as a mixed team, but if you have a team on the other side that's amazing at counterpunching, maybe you don't want to be as aggressive against those teams, and you might want to actually like slow the point down by playing like lower, softer, slower shots to sort of force them into trying to like maybe they'll force the attack at the wrong time and make more unforced errors. Whereas if you speed up and play aggressive at them, they may like that. So you have to sort of consider your own strengths and weaknesses, and then also consider the strengths and weaknesses of your opponents. Because another example would be maybe as the right side female and mixed, maybe you're not the most aggressive player, but let's say that you have a weak right side player on the other side of the court, maybe you'll be a bit more aggressive and speed up a little bit more often or apply more pressure with your dinks, or maybe you'll drive your third shot a little bit more to that right side player if they're weaker. So that's an example of taking your opponent's strengths and weaknesses into consideration and then maybe adapting your game plan accordingly.
Yeah. So when we do like we're talking about we mentioned the third, and then another question is actually it's a fourth. So especially when the female player is already at the kitchen at the net, and then the male player is at the back. So when your opponent drives, and I know in the gender double, I will try to take as much heat I can, help my partner to coming in.
Yes.
So I will try my best. Doesn't matter I'm on the left or the right. I want to block that drive. And the mix is a bit tricky because the guy is tall and move faster. And sometimes I'm kind of hesitate, like because they can come and charge fast. So, in what, like, can you give some kind of rule of thumb? Like, should the female player take the force or let the male player coming in with their forehand?
Yeah, this is a really good question. And because this is a tough situation, even in just gender doubles, like knowing if you're the returner's partner, so you're already at the non-volley zone, knowing how much space to take in the middle is sometimes a tough role. So the considerations basically, so if you're the right side female player, you're at the non-volley zone and you're trying to determine whether you should take up more space in the middle to help your partner. Really, the first consideration you need to be aware of is what was the quality of the serve to your left side male partner. So if the serve was really deep and fast, so let's say that the male partner, sorry, the opposing team, let's say the male left side player has like a really heavy serve, they may be able to hit that serve really fast and deep, which forces your left side male partner to struggle with the return. If that's the case, sometimes you might need to help out and cover the middle a little bit more if you're aware that your left side partner is going to struggle to make it forward to the non-volley zone. So that's the first thing, is being aware of the quality of the serve that your left side partner just received. Because if they're struggling to get in after a high quality serve, you may want to take up a little bit more space in the middle to help them out. Okay. If the serve is more neutral, you can sort of assume that your left side partner will make a better return or a higher quality return, because if the serve is a little bit more neutral or weaker, they probably won't struggle to make the return, and they probably will struggle less to get to the non-volley zone. So you don't need to help them out. And then you can just stay on your right side a little bit more honestly, and you can leave a little bit more of the middle territory to the left side partner. Now, the other consideration is as again, like I said, the quality of the return and who's hitting the third shot for the serving team. So if you're the right side female player and your partner hits like a really weak sort of cross court return, that left side male player on the opposing team is likely going to drive their third, and they're probably going to drive, they may very well drive it at you on the right side down the line to pick on you because you don't have as much time to react because you're closer to the person driving the ball. You have to just worry about covering your side of the court at that point, and you can't take the middle because then the person's going to go behind you to your forehand on the right side. So as the right side female player, you may just want to stay on your side and just get ready to block the drive that's coming at you.
Yeah.
Now, that also puts your left side partner under pressure because if you can't take the middle of the court because you're just covering your side, the left side partner coming to the non-volley zone who's about to receive a big drive has to cover more space in the middle, and they have to cover more space out wide to their backhand potentially. So what you really need to be aware of as the right side player is the quality of the serve. That will help you sometimes often predict whether your partner can get to the non-volley zone effectively or not. But you also have to keep an eye on the quality of the return and what's likely to come at you on the next shot. So it's tough as the right side female player. Again, you need to help your partner out sometimes if they're struggling to get to the non-volley zone, but you need to sort of also cover your own territory. If the return was weak and the ball's going to get driven at you, you have to stay put on the right side and get ready to block a return. And I think in that case, your left side partner, if they hit a weak return, you have to let them know like, hey, when you hit a weak return, I just have to cover my side. And that means you're going to have to cover more space in the middle, but also out wide on your left side on your backhand. And unfortunately, that's just the reality of it is you have to encourage. That's why returning deep and mixed, if you can return deep, is such a critical tactic. The deeper the return is, the easier it is to make the fourth shot. So those are just some things to consider. Again, if the return goes really deep, even if the left side serving team player is going to drive the ball, the right side female player on the returning team might be able to take up a little bit more court in the middle because the drive's coming from so far away. They have more time to cover space from left to right. So yeah, so returning deep is obviously that's one of the things that's super important in mix is if you can return deep, it allows the right side player to maybe help cover some of the middle if they need to.
Yeah. So I find like like there's of course like a different return strategy, right? Like who you return to. In mixed double and gender double, it's pretty different. Do you mind explain like what will be kind of go-to strategy, who we should return to?
Yeah, it's so the one challenge is like if you're playing against a mixed team that's serving and you have a left side male player on that serving team and they're really good at taking a lot of the thirds. So you sometimes see at a really high level the left side male player will cover a lot of space to get to the third shot. So it's almost like I don't want to say it's pointless to try and return to the right side player. But sometimes it's really hard to hit the return to the right side player because the left side player just goes all the way over to take the third anyways. So you sacrifice sometimes depth for precision, and it doesn't work out because the left side player just takes the third no matter where you put it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that so maybe if you're playing a weak serving team, if the serve is weaker, that might allow you to drive your return with a little more pace to the right side player. You force the right side player to take the third shot. And maybe their third shot is less threatening or less aggressive. And in that case, you should definitely do that. But if you're playing a high level mixed team and both the right side female player and the left side male player, if they're both fairly strong, you may want to focus less on precision and focus more on depth. Because if that left side player is going to go and take the third no matter what or no matter where it is, sometimes when you focus on precision and there's no benefit to it because the left side player still gets to the third, you might as well focus more on just getting the ball deep so that you force that left side player to hit their third shot from a lot farther back in the court because you can't control whether a serving team is going to hit an aggressive third shot or not. It's up to them. If they want to hit hard, they're going to hit hard. But what you can influence is how deep they hit that aggressive third shot or from how deep they hit it from. So if you can force them to hit their third shot from really deep in the court, that's going to give you and your partner more time to react on your fourth shot. So the other thing that you can do is you can focus on returning to the left side player intentionally. So sometimes, like if the left side player is really aggressive, they actually like the right side player to take the third so that they can get close to the non-volley zone and be a threat on the fifth shot and attack the fifth shot by getting close to the non-volley zone. So you may actually, in some cases, want to return deep to that left side player to force them to stay away from the non-volley zone. So if you can make them hit the third shot from behind the baseline, often that means they won't be at the non-volley zone for their fifth shot because they can't get all the way forward after the third shot. So those are I know that was a lot in one sentence, but those are things that you need to think about as a team, right? So like I know the last tournament I played, to give an example, the left side male player, when he was serving, his serve, whether he was serving from the right or the left, his serve was really, really fast and heavy. So it was almost impossible to hit deep, accurate returns consistently because his serve was so fast that making not only a deep return, but a deep and precise return was so difficult because his serve was so fast. It was just a struggle to return it, period. So what we focused on was just like aim up the middle of the court and just try our best to get it deep to at least force him to hit his third shot drive from farther back. Because this particular player also had a really aggressive, big forehand drive. So it was tough to be really precise when returning his serve. So the priority shifted to just trying to get the ball back deep, like high, not too fast, just like high, loopy, and deep, to make sure that he hit his drive from far away. And the other thing he did well was he covered space well. So no matter where we put the ball, anyways, he would always go and drive that forehand, even if the return was to the right side player. So we just prioritized depth to keep it simple. Now, if his partner was serving, she had a little bit of a weaker serve. So we were able to actually like drive the return with more speed and more precision, a little bit more. We could make the right side female partner take the third, which limited his ability to drive the ball. So depending on who was serving, we had to change our returning tactics a little bit.
Hmm. I think you just help us to go to the next topic I want to ask is about the unwinding.
Mhm.
So say in the gender double and mixed double, both you are doing the full stacking. And unwinding is a challenge, especially when you receive a very strong serve, right? And then it's a very challenge, and you want to go the placement and also the depths. So when you find it's too challenging, cannot unwind, I know in gender double, it becomes more often you do half stacking, sometimes even play straight. But then when it goes to the mixed double, when you cannot unwind, then the female player will play on the left and the
Yeah.
male player will play on the right. So can you also shed some light on that? Like how would you do it then?
Yeah, then yeah, it's challenging, and that happens a lot. Is in mixed, it can be really tough to unwind the stack sometimes because you have like let's say the opposing serving team has really heavy serves, making an effective return. So first of all, making an effective deep return is just challenging if you're playing against a big server. and then making an effective return and crossing over as you unwind the stack. So as you run to the non-volley zone, crossing over, it's a longer distance when you unwind the stack after a return. It's more of a diagonal compared to when you run straight to the non-volley zone. So that's why unwinding the stack is so difficult because there's more distance to cover for the returner to get into the non-volley zone position. So when you don't unwind the stack, first of all, that's smart. If you're playing an aggressive serving team, you should probably not unwind the stack. It's just too difficult. But now what happens is you have, say, the female playing the left side, and after they make their return, they're playing the left side, and the male player is now playing the right. And this can feel pretty unfamiliar at times. So you also have to discuss with your partner when that happens, who's taking what ball in the middle. Um, at that point, the female player may be a little less passive compared to when they're on the right side, because now when the female's on the left, their forehand is in the middle. So it may be easier for them to take some of the balls in the middle instead of bringing the right side male player really far over just to play a backhand. Most of the time, like in general, most players' backhands at the kitchen are less threatening, and they can't do as much with their backhand from the middle. So even though the male partner, if they are in fact like more, if they are stronger than their female partner, if it's their backhand and they don't have like a really dominant backhand, they may want to leave more balls to the female player in the middle. That said, it can be difficult for the female player to go from the role of playing on the right side where they're giving a lot of space, and now they're on the left and they're expected to take more space. That can be really difficult to shift back and forth. So for the sake of simplicity, maybe the male player still takes up a lot of space for those middle balls, even though it's on their backhand. But these are things you'd have to talk about as a partnership and as a team. Because if the female player on the left side has like really sort of crafty forehands, maybe they've got good speed up off the bounce or a good topspin roll dink forehand where they can sort of pressure the left side male player with a topspin roll forehand dink, they may want to use that shot more often. So it really depends. But again, these are things that you need to talk about as a team.
Yeah. So, like once again, when we compare the gender double and then the mixed double,
Mhm.
so if you say, like in the gender double, the left side player will take 55, 60% still.
Yeah, most of the time. Yeah, mostly again, just because the forehand of the left side player, if
Yeah.
assuming they're right-handed, they have more ability to use their strength, which in most cases is people's forehand. So yeah, they'll take maybe sort of 60%, maybe it's
Yep.
like 60-40, something around there. Um, yeah, so that would be in gender doubles. And then, when you shift back to mixed, if the female's on the left side, maybe that's more like 50-50. But again, it sort of depends on the team strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. And then with that, like, let's talk about the poach. So, and then in the gender double, so I think now it becomes like a lot of female players have two-hand backhands, and then you start to see poaching from both sides in the gender double.
Mhm.
And so the question here is, how much should the female player poach in the mixed double? And it's funny, like I know, like generally everybody's like watching her. Oh wow, she just poached Ben's Shaw even with her backhand, but she's a number one in the world, and then she has a killer two-hand backhand. So and like I also notice a lot of like in the mixed double, sometimes the female player can be over poaching, and especially when you face the opponent there's one guy, one strong, like the guy is strong over there. Like if for the female player, if you come out of position, come and poach that ball, if you're not being successful, you're leaving the whole side vulnerable. Like
Right.
I do feel like in terms of the poaching, like certain ball you can poach in women's double game,
Mhm.
but certain balls you probably should leave to your male partner. What's your take on of the poaching from the female?
Yeah. So for poaching for the female right side player in mixed doubles, s- again, though, if your male partner on the left side has a really dominant forehand around the middle, you may want to leave more balls in the middle for your partner. But then some of it also depends on, so it depends on your capability with your backhand from the right side. So if you do poach, do you have a really good sort of aggressive backhand attack out of the air? If you do, you can take a few more balls because you don't have to worry about being out of position as much because if your backhand's really capable, you should be able to apply enough pressure that you don't get burned on the next shot. But
Yep.
some of it also depends on where the ball's coming from. So if you're the right side player and the player in front of you, which would generally be the left side player or the left side male player, if they're hitting through the middle, the ball, this is now getting into the X pattern. So if you're the right side player and the left side player in front of you sends a ball through the middle, generally that ball's traveling a little bit more away from you because it's a diagonal. So it's going through the middle, but it's traveling towards your left side partner a little more. You should probably leave more of those balls for your left side partner because that ball's traveling towards your left side partner on an angle so they can take their forehand quite easily. It won't be as much of a stretch for them, and it will actually draw you farther out of position because the ball's traveling away from you on an angle. So you might leave more of those. Now, if the ball is traveling from the right side player on the opposing team and it's coming through the middle, slightly more towards your backhand, you may want your left side partner to leave a few more of those because the ball's traveling away from them. So it probably will take them a little bit more out of position. And it would not take you too far out of position as the right side player because the ball's approaching you on a diagonal. So it's sort of coming towards you. So it's not as much of a stretch. So
Yeah.
the side of the court that the ball is coming from has a big impact on that. And then also the height of the ball. So if it's a really slow, high, easy ball, maybe the left side player can take more of them because they have
Yep.
a lot of time to get to the ball and they don't have to worry about being out of position on the next shot. But if it's a bit of like a gray area floating ball that's like just barely above the height of the net, you have to be a little bit more honest with some of those shots because they're harder to get to because they're not in the air for as long,
Yeah.
as high. But again, these are things that you have to talk about with your partners. Like, okay, when the ball's coming from this side, maybe I'll take more of them. But when it's coming through the middle on from that side, maybe you take more of them. Those are things you need to be aware of and discuss for sure.
Yeah.
But hopefully that
Thank you.
provides.
Thank you so much. Can you
Yeah.
believe we're running out of the time again? I feel like we just started, but we have to end here. And then just as we speak, I have more questions for you for the
Mhm.
next episode. At the same time, we have to end today's episode. And thank you so much, Jeff. And also thank you for all the audience. Please follow us and subscribe us on YouTube and all the podcast platform. And yeah, looking forward to see everybody again. We will continue this exciting topic.
All
Thank you.
right. Thanks, Lily. Look forward to the next one.
Thank you. Talk to you
Okay.
soon.